Good evening, everyone. How are you?
All right. Good evening, Ruth. How are you doing?
I'm putting the camera. Camera was off. I didn't realize. How are you, everyone?
Okay. All fine, thank you.
Good. Is everyone well? What's news?
No news as per usual.
Hey, everyone well. See, George. I need to take some here. Good. Here, I have it here. I forgot something almost, but now I have it. Okay, so Trevor with us, Dr. Les with us. Special welcome, Trevor. Trevor, thank you for joining us. Very nice of you to join us. Dr. Les, give us the news. What's happening in Eretz Israel?
You know, today they made it a day of mourning. It's the mood is so sad, so somber from everybody, from all walks of life, from religious, irreligious, and what can you say? It's just it's hard to understand. It's hard to fathom. It's very hard to fathom.
Very sad. I think that it's a tragedy to the Jewish world all over, not only in Israel, all over
the world. There were two bochum from the Mir that their parents flew in for the Levy that they're having today. But they were from the Mir, two bochers from America. It's affected world jury. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm really sorry. I'm sure that we're gonna delegate the show in, if we can, we try, in a memory of those deceased, those 45 souls that died in a tragedy in Miron on Thursday night in Lag BaOmer. And all we can say that may HaKadosh Baruch Hu rest their soul in peace, and to try to give a comfort to the family, to comfort their family in this difficult time. We don't understand Heshbonot Shamayim. What can we do? It's a difficult time for the Jewish people. It's never happened, but we don't know. We don't know what's. I tell you, I was, as I mentioned on Thursday night when we given the show, I was planning to give a series of shiurim about the Kaddish. I'm going to mute everyone, Rabotai, because there's noise at the back. With your permission, I'm gonna mute everyone. Okay, now, okay. So on Thursday night we mentioned that I'm gonna give a show on a Kaddish. A half an hour ago I changed my mind, and I'll tell you why. I'm gonna postpone the shiurim about the Kaddish for the simple reason is because Shavuot gonna fall in 2 weeks' time on a Sunday. So that means that we can't have a shiur. The only time that we can have a shiur is tonight and next week. Next week is already Kaf Het Iyar. Kaf Het Iyar is Yom Yerushalayim. So we don't have a lot of time to prepare ourselves. And if we start with a series of shiurim about the Kaddish, we're gonna miss about Shavuot. So I decided in the last second to speak about Migilat Ruth, to do introduction to Migilat Ruth and the characters of Migilat Ruth, who they are, and to go through the Megillah, because these 4 chapters, to go through them to explain what's happening in Migilat Ruth. But Be'ezrat Hashem, na'aseh v'natzliach, v'Hashem aleinu berachamav yarbiach, we're going to dedicate the shiur, okay, to the 45 beautiful soul that die on Thursday night in Lag BaOmer in the Mount of Miron. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu rest their soul in peace. Also in Le'ilui Nishmat Esther Kaden Bat Kitzia, Mordechai ben Rahma, Harav Avraham Hayim ben Eliezer Yaakov, Tamar bat Zehava, Rachel bat Malka Sultana, Rivka Leah bat David, Esther bat Moshe Levy, and also Lerfuat, for the healing of Liora bat Miriam, Shmuel ben Michal, Menashe Naji ben Farha, Orna Bluma bat Miriam, Harav Avraham ben Marina, Avraham Shlomo Yehuda ben Dalia, Harav Moshe ben Devora, Dvora bat Esther, Yedidia Zelig ben Ashira Rachel, Moshe Meir ben Hana, Haim Nahum ben Tzvi Kohen, Hannah Sarah bat Devora, Shlomo Pinchas ben Sheina Fisha, Mordechai David ben Leah, Moshe ben Devora. Please God, a speedily recovery to all of them and all of the 150 people that got injured in Mount Miron and Har Miron and Lag BaOmer. Please God, speedily recover. So I'm going to speak about the Migilat Ruth. In Shavuot, it's a custom to read Migilat Ruth. Okay, it's a custom to read Migilat Ruth, and we have to understand why. It's over 1,300 years that in the diaspora we read, okay, and not only the diaspora, all over the world, that we read Migilat Ruth in Eretz Israel. Migilat Ruth been written by Shmuel HaNavi, by the prophet Samuel, okay? Hazal in a Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra in page 14, folio 2, right in the end, what's the end of the page, explain to us that Shmuel HaNavi, he was the one that wrote Megillat Ruth. When is Megillat Ruth? When is the story of Ruth happen? We have to, first of all, we have to put it in proportion. So the Megillat Ruth actually was during the time of the judges. The time of the judges was straight after Yoshua bin Nun passed away, and that was 1,030 years before the Common Era, The time of the judges, okay, was over 360 years until the appointment of Saul, the king, the first king that the Jewish people have. That was the story of Megillat Ruth. When is it happen? In Megillat Ruth, a matter of fact, we have 4 main characters. A matter of fact, not only 4, we have more than 4, we have even 5, okay, if you look at it, but we're going to explain it now shortly. Okay, thank you. The first one, the first character that it's going to speak, it's going to be Elimelech. Who was Elimelech? Elimelech was one of the 4 sons of Nahshon ben Aminadav. That's we learned that from Sefer Shmot in chapter 6 in verse 23. Nahshon ben Aminadav, he was the head of the tribe of Shevet Yehuda. And Nahshon ben Aminadav, he was the brother of Elisheva. Elisheva was the wife of Aaron HaKohen. Okay, and Elimelech was one of his sons. Then we have another character, Naomi. Naomi was his wife. Naomi was the daughter of Salmon. Salmon was the oldest son of Nahshon. Remember we mentioned Nahshon? Okay, that was the father of Elimelech. Salmon was the older one, okay? Salmon ben Aminadav. That means, now if you look at it, what's happening here, Naomi married her uncle, because the uncle was Elimelech. Elimelech was the brother of her father, okay? And Hazal explained there that why did they call the Naomi? What's the name Naomi? And Hazal explained like this. I will say it in Hebrew, then I will translate it to English. Mishum shema'asea na'im. That means that her deeds was, she had a very nice deeds. Her act, her beauty, her behavior was very nice. Naomi have 2 kids, Machlon and Kilion. Machlon and Kilion. Remember that, Machlon and Kilion. Then come the 3rd character, it's Boaz. Who was Boaz? Boaz was also a son of Salmon. That means that's the 3rd cousin now. We see that there is 3. There is Elimelech, there is Salmon, the son of Nahshon, and there is now Salmon. Okay? Now, Boaz also is named Aftzan. Aftzan, who's Aftzan? Aftzan was one of the judges. Sorry, let me explain again who was Boaz. Boaz was the son of Salmon, okay? Salmon, okay, was the father of Naomi. He was one of the son of Nahshon ben Aminadav. Boaz was one of his sons. That means, again, we see that Naomi and Boaz was relative, okay? Chazal in the Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra in page 91, folio 1. Chazal explained, listen to that, Chazal explained that Boaz lived for 300 years, 300 years, to the age of 300, okay? And he have two wives. The first wife, listen to that carefully. Chazal tell us in a Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra, in page 91, folio 1, he have 60 kids. 60 kids. 30 boys, 30 girls. And they all died while he was still alive, because he lived for many years. Also in the book of Shoftim, in chapter 12, in verses 8 and 9, there it's explained that he had 60 kids, 30 boys, 30 girls, okay? Towards the end of his life, he married another woman, that was Ruth the Moaviah, the Moabite, okay? And they have a son, okay? And his name was Ovad. Ovad had a son that was Ishai. Ishai was a son, he had many sons, but Ishai was the father of David HaMelech. So here we see the dynasty from Ruth to David HaMelech. Okay. Now, who was Ruth? Who was Ruth? Ruth was a princess. She was the daughter of Eglon, Melech Moab. That means that she was a Moabite. She wasn't a Jewish. We'll see now how Boaz actually married her. We have to understand. So according to Rabbi Yossi in the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin in page 105, folio 2, Rabbi Yossi Bar Huna, he said that Ruth married Mahlon, okay? And she lived for many years. She was Ema Mamlacha, Hazal say. What it means, Ema Mamlacha? The mother of the kingdom. We'll explain that just now. When Naomi returned to Eretz Israel, she returned with Ruth. And Naomi suggested to Ruth to marry Boaz. And what happened? After Boaz married her, we'll explain later on when we do the introduction, when we go through Migilat Ruth, we'll explain. She had a son in the name of Ovad. Then there's another character in the Migilat Ruth, Orpah. Orpah was also a princess. As a matter of fact, she was the sister of Ruth. Orpah was also the daughter of Eglon, Melech Moab, okay? And she married Chilion, okay? After Chilion passed away, and also Mahlon, both of them passed away, Orpah actually returned to the house of her father in the land of Moab. You know who she was? She was the mother of Goliath. Remember Goliath, David and Goliath, the story with David and Goliath? His mother was Orpah, okay? And that's, Hazal tell us something very interesting about Orpah. Orpah at the beginning was a good woman. At the beginning, she married, when she married Chilion. But after that, after she returned to Moab, she actually started worshiping idols. And in the book of Shmuel Aleph, okay, Samuel 1, in chapter 17, verse 23, listen to that, what's happened. Hazal said that, as a matter of fact, she actually lost her behavior and she had a physical relationship with 90 men on one night. Ado to the Gemara in Yerushalmi in Masechet Yevamot in chapter 4, Halacha Bet, that Yerushalmi, the Gemara in Masechet Yerushalmi, Masechet Yevamot, Hazal said there that not only that she had a physical relationship with a dog. And the source to it come that when David HaMelech come to fight with Goliath, remember David HaMelech come with a stick and with 5 stones that turned to 1 stone. That's a different miracle. When he came to fight with Goliath, so Goliath saw that David HaMelech coming with stone with a stick. And Goliath said to David HaMelech, are you coming to hit me like you coming to hit a dog? And Hazal said, that was in the book of Shmuel Aleph in chapter 17, verse 43. The commentary there, Hazal explained that why did he say like a dog? Because everyone used to tease Goliath because his mother had a relationship with the dog. That's the Gemara, again, remember in Masechet Yevamot, the Yerushalmi, not the Bavli. Okay, in chapter 4, Halacha Bet, law number 2. Okay? Okay, so now we have to understand what's happening, those the character. Now we have to understand why do we read Migilat Ruth Dafka on Shavuot? Why not any other day? Why Dafka Shavuot? So we know that the festival of Shavuot also been called Hag HaKatzir. What it means, Hag HaKatzir? It's the festival of the harvesting, that you harvest the field. And the story of Ruth happened during the time of the harvesting. Okay? And when is it? In Shavuot, harvesting time in Eretz Israel, that the harvest, the wheat, not the barley, the wheat, happen when? On Shavuot. Okay? That's one idea. Also, there is another idea, the same like that's Rabbi David Abu Darham. I don't know if you heard about Rabbi David Abu Darham, I mentioned him before. Rabbi David Abu Darham lived in the 13th century. He born in a city of Sevilla in Spain. And Rabbi David Abu Darham explained a different idea. He says that the main reason that we read Megillat Ruth in Shavuot, because Ruth HaMoaviyah converted in Shavuot, because the story that she met Boaz, that she been with Boaz, and Boaz converted her, we'll explain just now when we go through the book of Ruth. Also, Bnei Israel, what happened? They merit, the children of Israel merit to receive the Torah. We received the Torah when? In Shavuot, you remember. And Hazal tell us that that also Ruth converted and got under the wing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Shavuot. So that's the second reason why we read the book of Ruth and Shavuot. The Gemara in Masechet Hagiga in Yerushalmi, in chapter 2, Halacha Gimel, law number 3, they're actually explaining it differently. And they say that the main reason that we read Ruth, because it's the dynasty from Ruth HaMoaviyah, from Ruth that was a Moabite, until she convert, until her grandson, David HaMelech, that become the king from the tribe of Judah. So that means, because of that dynasty, to tell us the dynasty of Ruth and what came from her until become David HaMelech. That was the king from the tribe of Judah. If we want to go derech haremes, because we said there is pshat, remes, drash, sod, to everything in the Torah. On a remes, if we take the word root, we'll do gematria now. Root, you write resh, vav, taf. Resh is 200, vav is 6, taf is 400, together is 606, root. Ruth, before she became a Jew, she was obligated for 7 mitzvot, that the 7 law of Noah, Bnei Noah, the 7 law of Noah. Now that she became a Jew on Shavuot, add up 7 plus 606 will give us 613. That's the amount of the mitzvot that we receive on Shavuot, and that's why we read Ruth on Shavuot. Another idea, according to the Remez, we say that Ruth is 606, okay? The Gematria. David, the word David, you spell it Daled Vav, Daled is 14. Together is 620. What's hiding behind it? It's the same like you write crown. The crown is 620 to tell us that that's what David HaMelech merit to receive to become a king, the crown that David HaMelech received to become the king of the Jewish people. Now we've done a bit of introduction for the character that there is in Megillat Ruth, number 1, Number two, we spoke also, why do we read Migilat Ruth in Shavuot? So now we're going to go through the Migilat Ruth Be'ezrat Hashem. I'm going to make it, I try to make it very, very easy, very simply, very easy that you will understand. I'm not going to go to depths, very simple. In Migilat Ruth, we have 4 chapters. First of all, we have to understand. The story in chapter 1 in Migilat Ruth, it's revealed to us that it was during the time of the judges, and it was a very well-respected family that lived in Eretz Israel, in Bethlehem, in the city of Bethlehem, and it was the family of Elimelech. Elimelech was a very rich man. His wife called Naomi, that we introduce her. And they have 2 children, Mahlon and Kilion, okay? And during the time of the famine in Eretz Israel, during the time of the judges in Eretz Israel, was a famine in Eretz Israel. And Elimelech, that was very rich and very well-respected man, didn't want to give or to waste his money on a poor people. And he was worried that because there's famine, people are going to come and knock on his door and they want money. But he was a miser, and he decided he's going to leave the land of Eretz Israel and he's going to settle in the land of Moab until the famine going to end in Eretz Israel. So what has he done? He picked up his stuff, his wife and his kids, the money that he had, and he moved to the land of Moab. Shortly after he moved to the land of Moab, what happened? The 2 sons, Mahlon and Kilion, met with 2 princesses, that one was Ruth and one was Orpah, that there was the sisters, okay? And Ruth and Orpah married, obviously, Mahlon and Kilion. Shortly after they married, we find a disaster. We heard that Elimelech died. After Elimelech died, shortly after that, also another disaster immediately happened. Mahlon died, and shortly after that also Kilion died. That means that shortly after the move from Eretz Israel to the land of Moab, Elimelech died and 2 of his sons. All of that happened in the first 10 years, only 10 years, okay? That Naomi suddenly found herself a widow with no husband, with no sons, that she lost in the land of Moab. Now she left with 2 daughters-in-laws that they're not Jewish. Naomi decided, and she heard that the famine in Eretz Israel is ended. She decided to return to the land of Eretz Israel, and she took both of her daughter-in-law and she spoke to him and she explained to him that she's planning to go back to Eretz Israel. And it's better for them to return to the house of their father. So at the beginning, Orpah and Ruth didn't want to leave her. But after a lot of convincing, Orpah decided, okay, I'm leaving, I'm going back to the house of my father. I'm going to live like a princess with a rich father. And I'm going to the land of Eretz Israel. I will be nothing, I'll have nothing. Orpah decided to go back to her father, to the house of her father. You know, after all, the compatibility called it. Ruth, though, from the other way, that was the other sister, didn't agree to it. And Ruth decided to stick by Naomi, and she's not going to live. She's not going to leave. She's going to stick by Naomi, and she's going to go wherever she will go. Wherever you're going to go, I will follow you. And what's happened? Naomi actually decided that she's going to take Ruth with her, and Ruth stick by her. That's chapter 1. In chapter 2, it's very interesting what's happening there. Now, Naomi and Ruth returning to the land of Eretz Israel, to Bethlehem from Moab. They're coming to Bethlehem. When they arrive in Bethlehem, it was during the time of the funeral, listen to that, for the wife of Boaz, the first wife of Boaz, she passed away. And it was a great funeral. And when Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, they saw the big funeral. And on that funeral, obviously, all the members of Bethlehem was there. And why? Because Boaz was the leader of the generation, as I'll explain. So what happened? Because he was the leader, the entire member of the city of Bethlehem gone to show respect, okay, to Boaz. Because now that he lost his wife, everyone come to the funeral. When that happened, Ruth and her mother-in-law, Naomi, arrived in Bethlehem, and people start to recognize Naomi. And people was gossiping and speaking Lashon Hara and saying, is that the rich Naomi that we knew, that used to wear fancy clothes, fancy shoes, used to ride the chariot from place to place? Look at her now. Naomi now walk bare feet. Look at the clothes that torn, okay? And look who she come with. She come with a daughter-in-law. Two poor people, okay? And also Naomi and Ruth, when they came to Eretz Israel, to the land of Bethlehem, to the city of Bethlehem, they arrived in an empty house because the house was empty for 10 years. Now they arrived in the house, they saw the deserted house, and that's where they started to settle again. In chapter 3, it was during the time of the harvesting. That means that the harvesting of the wheat in Eretz Israel. Okay, and what happened? Ruth saw that she and her mother-in-law very poor, and they hardly have nothing to eat. They hardly have something to eat. She decided to take encouragement, and she decided to go and to collect the sheaves, because there is a mitzvah in the Torah that you should leave 3 straw of sheaves for the poor person. Okay, that means while the reapers harvesting the land, if fall, I'm explaining the mitzvah of leket, it's called mitzvah leket, that if 3 straw of wheat fell on the floor, the reaper is not allowed to pick it up. If it's more, then he allowed, okay? So Ruth decided to take the courage, and she going to the field of Boaz to go and collect. While she was collecting the sheaf, who saw it? Boaz saw a poor woman standing there, but she's standing very modest woman. She behaved very modestly. And instead of taking 3 like she allowed to collect 3 straws of sheaves, she took only 2. Boaz kept his eyes on her. He didn't know who she is yet, until he asked the foreman of the field, tell me, who's that poor woman there? And the foreman explained to Boaz that, as a matter of fact, this woman, this poor woman, she is the daughter-in-law of Naomi. That is your relative. Boaz immediately told the foreman, and he told the reapers to look after her. And Boaz approached Ruth, and he asked her to join, as a matter of fact, the workers in the field. Not only that, he even asked her to join them for lunch, okay? And he command the foreman and the reapers to look after Ruth. After that day, Ruth come home, and she told the story that happened on the field with Boaz, that Boaz, as a matter of fact, told her to stay with him, to work with him in the field. Not only that, he asked her to join them for lunch. He given her lunch. Not only that, he treated her very well. And more important, Boaz asked Ruth that during the time of the harvesting, not to go to any other field. She must stay in his field, and she can collect from his field until the end of the season. And that's what Ruth told Naomi. In chapter 4, now we're moving to the final chapter. It was Tkufat, the end of the time of the harvesting. It's called Tkufat Hazraya. That's in Hebrew, they call it the end of the time of the harvesting. What does it mean? Now they take in the straws, and actually they're separating the straws, they're separating the wheat from the straw, okay? And they're throwing the straw away, and they're leaving the garanim. The garanim is the seed, okay? That's preparing them to dry them and then to grind them, obviously. And Boaz, and during that time, a matter of fact, going down to the field to look what his workers doing, what's happening, to watch that the work is done properly. Naomi, that heard all of that from her daughter-in-law Ruth, suggested to Ruth that she must marry Boaz. And in the beginning, Ruth wasn't sure how she's gonna do it. Naomi suggested to Ruth that what to do, and she explained to her what to do. Naomi told Ruth that she must go and wash herself, first of all, and she must dress nicely, and at night, that night, she must go and sleep in a barn by the feet of Boaz, to sleep by the feet of Boaz. Many people intend to explain that differently, but that's the right, I'm explaining exactly what's happened in a book of Ruth. Ruth, obviously listening to her mother-in-law, and in the middle of the night, Boaz suddenly wake up terrified. He see a woman by his feet, and he asked the woman that's sleeping by his feet, who you are? And Ruth said to him, I'm your servant Ruth, okay? And she asked Boaz to marry her. Boaz explained to her that it's not so simple to marry her, because her father-in-law, Elimelech, have a brother by the name of Tov. His name is Tov. And he have the first right to marry her and to redeem all of the field, all of the wealth of Elimelech. So that's what he'll do first thing in the morning. And he promised her that if Tov will refuse to marry her, he will marry her. And Hazal explained that Boaz in the morning when he wake up, he going to speak to Tov. But before that, Boaz asked Ruth, please leave before the sunrise so no one will see you here in a barn with me. And that's what happened. Ruth gone back to her mother-in-law, and Boaz in the morning wake up and going to speak to his uncle Tov. Excuse me 1 second. After he spoke to Tov and he explained the situation that he have to, because his brother Elimelech passed away, and now we have a wife, Naomi, and Naomi have a daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law never have kids, and he have to do yibum. Tov immediately changed his tune and said, listen, in that case, I don't want anything to do with them. If you want, you can do it. Boaz gone to Chachmei Israel, I'm telling you now the commentary, and ask Chachmei Israel to do for a matara for Tov that he can marry her. Also, Boaz took Ruth and converted her in the front of Chachmei Israel, and she became Jewish. And what happened after that? Boaz married Ruth, okay? Because his brother, because the brother of Elimelech Tov, given the right to do yibum, now who's doing the yibum? Boaz. So Boaz done the yibum, okay? Boaz, when he, now I'm going back to the Migilat Ruth. When Boaz asked Ruth to leave at night, he given her 6 straw of wheat. And Hazal explaining in the Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin, Tzaddik Gimel Amud Aleph, that's mean 93 folio 1. Hazal explained, by that he given her 6 straw, he actually hinted to Ruth that 6 great tzaddikim will come from her. There's different opinion in Masechet Sanhedrin in 93 folio 2, not folio 1, sorry, folio 2. Hazal said that it was, he referred to David HaMelech, to Mashiach, to Daniel, Mishael, Hananiah, Azariah. Okay, all of those 6. Daniel, Mishael, Hananiah, Azariah. Yeah, those 6. According to other opinion, it was like this: David, Hiskiah, Yeshaya, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So there's different opinion who was those tzaddikim there. So that's that. Boaz given Ruth the 6 straw is to tell her that from her descendants will come 6 great tzaddikim. Okay, the following morning we say that Boaz going to speak to Tov. Tov didn't want to do the what do you call it, the Yibum. Now he converted the Ruth and he married her. Okay, that now no problem, Boaz married Ruth, okay? He done that after he done a kinyan. Obviously you have to do a kinyan in the front of the 10 Talmidei Chachamim. You can do it in the front of one, but there Hazal explained that he done it in the front of 10 Talmidei Chachamim. And Boaz now, listen to that, Boaz bought all the inherit of Elimelech. That means Boaz was both the land, the house, everything that belonged to him. And now he's obligated to do Yibum to who? To Ruth, because his wife Naomi have 2 kids. He doesn't have to. Boaz was in that time was in the age of 80. Boaz was in the age of 80, and Ruth was in the age of 40. Yes. He was older than her by 40 years. Now, what happened now? Remember, we said that Ruth lived for 300 years. Did I say 300 years, Ruth, or I said Boaz? Ruth lived for 300 years. I think I said Boaz. I made a mistake. Okay? So now, Boaz in the age of 80 married who? Ruth. Okay? After he married her, and here come the sore keys, okay? To understand why we read the Migilat Ruth. After he married Ruth, Boaz and Ruth was together. Ruth fell pregnant. Boaz died because he didn't merit to see his children. From them he have one child that called Ovad. Ovad was the father of Ishai. Ishai was the father of David HaMelech. Okay? And Hazal said that Ruth married to live for so many years. Why so long? To see all her descendants. And Hazal called her Ema Mamlacha. What it means, Ema Mamlacha? That from her become all the descendants of Malchut Bet Yehuda. Okay. Now, the question that many people say, because the Torah tells us that a person not allowed to marry a Moabite. Okay? Edomi veMoavi. The Torah tells us that a person not allowed to marry a Moabite and not Edomite. And the question become that many of the Mefarshim ask, wait, Vachabiki, Boaz, the greatest man, the leader of the Jewish people in that generation, he was one of the judges of the Jewish people. He's going and married a Moabite. But we're not allowed, even if she converts. So Hazal then said, they done a pilpul there, that a Moabite woman, you're allowed to marry. A Moabite man, you can't convert, you're not allowed. And the same with the Edomite. That Edomite woman, you're allowed to marry after you convert her, obviously, But a male, you're not allowed to marry. Why? Hazal explained the Mishum Shedo Kidmu et Pnechem B'mayim ve'balehem. What does it mean? When the children of Israel came to the land of Eretz Israel, when they passed through the land of Moab, the land of Moabite, the men didn't, when they came out to show the Jewish people, to see them, they didn't come and given them bread and water. So the Torah commands us that the men that came out in the front of the Jewish people when they crossed, when they gone through the land, not through the land, next to the land, they didn't give them no water and bread. You saw horrible, and that merit, you're not allowed to become a Jewish person. Why? Because one of the characters of the Jewish people, they are merciful. The Jewish people, Rahmanim, okay? And the Moabite, not. So in that merit, Hazal explain, and they explain also how, and what's happened that David HaMelech can become a king. How can it be that Ruth, that was a Moabite, converted, and when Boaz married her, it was halachically okay. So from here, we see the story of Ruth. We explain the story of Ruth and how it's fit with David HaMelech. Now I'm going to give time for question. If you have, please unmute the microphone and you can ask question, and now, Be'ezrat Hashem, I will try and answer your question.
Hello, it's Anthony.
Shalom Aleichem, Anthony.
How are you?
Baruch Hashem, and you, Mr. Antonio.
All right, thanks. Who had 30 children? You said someone had 30 children. Who was that?
No. I didn't say 30, I said 60.
60. Who had 60 children?
Okay, Boaz from his first wife. Anthony, can you hear me?
Are you there?
Anthony.
Just say that again. I missed.
If you ask people at the back, quiet, you were listening to me. Okay. Boaz has kids, 50 boys and 30 girls.
Boaz had 30 boys and 30 girls.
Boaz.
And Ruth lived to 300. That's also very unusual to live to 300.
Nachon, because she was Ezem HaMamlacha.
Because people live to 120, no more than 120. Live to 300.
Nachon, but she married because the good deeds that she done, that she even left her mother-in-law. She's stacked by her mother-in-law. You follow? Hello? You understand me? Any other question?
So she lived to 300, not Boaz. How long did he live to, Boaz?
Boaz lived to the age of 80. I explained.
Okay, sure, so it's quite a gap.
Okay.
Was he part of the son? Boaz, was he? What was his title? His title was he part of? What was his title? I'm trying to remember. Boaz was it a judge? No.
Boaz was the leader of the Jewish people. He was one of the judges. He was one of the judges during his time.
Judge.
And his name was Aftzan. Remember, because Hazal explained that he was Aftzan, one of the judges, that the Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra explained in 91, folio 1. Any other question, Rapota? Who else want to ask regarding the story of Migilat Ruth? Okay, if there is no question, I would like to take the opportunity to wish you all a good night, a beautiful new week to all of us. And I would like to appeal to each one of you personally. The tragedy that happened in Eretz Israel is a tragedy that affects every Jew. And if we can take on ourselves, please, each one individually, whenever you have a moment to say a Mishnah in honor of the deceased, that those 45 souls that die on Thursday night in Lag BaOmer in Har Miron, if any one of you can take on yourself just to say a Mishnah in honor of them, to help to uplift those neshama, number one. And number two, to take on yourself, if you can't say a Mishnah, even to read Tehillim. Because David HaMelech said, Kol ha'osek b'Tehillim, he asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the person that will read Tehillim, it will consider, Ki'ilu lomed masechet menachot. Okay? That means one of the most difficult Gemarot that there is in Shas. Okay? So if you can read Tehillim in honor of those deceased, also if you can read Tehillim in honor of those that got injured, for the speedy recovery of those 150 people that got injured, or 149 people that got injured, because one of them died, the number jumped up instead of 44 to 45. So if we can daven for those, so speedy recovery, Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have mercy on us. And Be'ezrat Hashem, please God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send us Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Wish you all a good night, a safe
Rabbi Levy, can you be church
Sorry?
Tzedakah also for these departing God? You give tzedakah?
Sure. Nothing better than that. It's dakat tatzil mimavet. Yeah. Yisher koach. Good night, everyone. Wish you all a great night. Once again, special thank you to Trevor for joining us tonight. Trevor, thank you for joining us. We'll be in touch on this coming Thursday. We'll do Parshat HaShavua. Wish you all a great night. Good night, everyone. All the best.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Pleasure. Good night.